would like to see a puppet show without the puppets. Let's see a show of hands. My guest today is a renowned puppeteer who has conjured an ensemble of stage adaptations starring his entire talented family. It's a theatrical feat so uncanny, it could only be summoned in the new paranormal. Ladies and gentlemen, ghouls and goblins, please welcome Derek Lux. Derek, let's begin with a lightning round. Favorite movie?
Easy. It is Forrest Gump. That has been my favorite movie since I first saw it. I love it.
Favorite Halloween costume?
I did it 2 years in a row. I dressed up as Ace Ventura.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Delilah by Tom Jones.
One thing you've always wanted to do, but haven't yet.
Skydive.
I've done skydiving while barbecuing. The stakes had never been higher. Which one of your puppets is the most photogenic?
About 5 years ago, it was a hunchback. He's got bags under his eyes, different size eyes, and then I did all this shading in the grooves and the contours.
How cute! Now, I'm not a puppet, but I do play one on television, which is why I rose to the occasion from the grave to ask you this simple question, Derek. Why puppets? What is it about puppetry that first captured your imagination? Was there a particular moment, show, or mentor that drew you into this world?
The two biggest influences I had were obviously Jim Henson and the Muppets, but then also another ventriloquist named Ron Lucas. And Ron Lucas had this Disney Channel special called Who's in Charge Now? Or Who's in Charge Here? I probably got it wrong.
It's Who's in Charge Here with one of my favorite puppet characters, Scorch. Remember Scorch the dragon? To pull off that character, I'm sure it takes a lot of talent. Get it? Talon, like dragon talons? Anyway, you were saying about Ron Lucas.
What Ron Lucas did in this special is he made it accessible. He was doing his act. He's a ventriloquist and he's one of the best in the world. And at the end of his act, he was kind of, telling the audience like, hey, honestly, anyone can do this. Watch. And he took off his shoe, put on a sock and put it on and just saying like, you can make a puppet. And for me, I think that was kind of a light bulb moment as a kid. I put it on my hand and I was, I can do that. I don't need to make this elaborate thing. And so that captured my imagination as a child, and I always found it fascinating. I kind of dabbled in puppetry a little bit because I was curious about how they were made. There was something in my brain that was fascinated about just what goes on underneath. And so I would see like behind the scenes pictures. I thought that's so fascinating. As a child, joined the San Francisco Bay Area Puppeteers Guild, because I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area originally, and it was just a wealth of knowledge and all these people that were doing this. And I was a member for a couple of years and went to meetings and workshops and kind of saw stuff. And then I kind of gravitated more into the performing arts, and I became a performer for many years. And then again, in my 20s, I was in Los Angeles and I was auditioning for things, and there was all these gaps in between, and I didn't have a lot of creative pursuits outside of performing, and I wanted to make a puppet again. The internet wasn't around when I was a child, so what I did is, I Googled puppet building now, and then realized, oh my gosh, now with the internet, there's a whole wealth of information. That was kind of like what I thought was going to be my hobby. I'm an actor, but I have this funny little hobby on the side of wanting to make puppets. And for a long time, I kind of resisted. I was like, well, but I want to be taken seriously as an actor, so I'm not a puppeteer. Like that's I just make them because I just want to be crafty. And then, a couple years later, it was the kind of thing where I realized it all started to mesh together, and I realized, wow, there's something to it because I have all these parts of myself. And I think in this one art form, it's kind of like an umbrella. I can put all these parts together, and man, I think there's maybe something to this, and it starts to feel like this is a lot more inspired, and it's unique, and it's kind of marrying all the different fragmented parts of myself. I think now as an adult why I ultimately got led to puppets, because it felt like all of my stuff came together in one unique package.
That is really cool, which is weird because I'm a ghost and I'm not supposed to be feeling temperature. Derek, do you remember the very first time you brought a puppet to life in front of an audience?
So my friend, Christian Anderson, who's a wonderful actor and performer, he's been on Broadway, in Avenue Q, was in Rent on Broadway. We connected and he brought me in on this project that was pitching. It was essentially a children's television show that they were trying to get sold, these two writers. And so we had the idea of, well, let's create a couple puppets, let's go into some boardrooms and kind of pitch the concept. And then they took it another step further, said, let's do kind of a live show. You know, I think we did like once a month for a couple months, something like that. I remember I got some footage from it, and then I watched the footage later, and I went, oh man, actually, I didn't really plan out that much, but I think what I did was actually pretty good. I think I should be open to this more and more now.
Tell me about your Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan productions.
Sure, yeah, for our Alice in Wonderland adaptation called Wonderland, just my wife and I, and we debuted that, in 2017. So it was sort of this unofficial husband and wife team. But then when we went to Neverland, the Peter Pan adaptation, we brought our sons into the equation. We debuted the show in 2019 as just a two-person show. And as soon as we did that, and it was starting to tour right before COVID, we thought, no, it's missing something. It doesn't have the magic the first show did. Then COVID happened, and we kind of shelved it for a while, and then we just dusted it off and did, what we kind of are calling like our 2.0 version. And our children were old enough and started performing in shows and things. We thought, well, I think they're finally ready. Let's put them in the show. So we rehearsed in our living room. We rearranged the furniture once a week. Same thing, like Saturdays and Sundays, we'd have big rehearsals at home on the afternoons, going through things. We do music rehearsals, and our shows are musical. And so both my sons, they're twins. They are 11, and they both can sing very well, and we knew they had strengths, so we kind of wrote to those as well, and just started going, okay, let's put them up, let's give them some space to kind of figure it out, let's not, like hover above them, and like I said, we assigned them roles that we knew were perfect for them, and they surprised us too. A lot of times we'd be in rehearsal, and they would just do something random. We're like, ooh, that's actually a good idea. Let's do it. So they really became collaborators.
Collaborating with family on a project like Wonderland and Neverland sounds both rewarding and challenging. How do you approach the creative process when everyone involved is so close to home?
Alice in Wonderland is so easy. It's basically just Alice by herself wandering through a forest. Peter Pan, there's Wendy, there's her brothers, there's Lost Boys, there's all these pirates. You're like, how do we do this? So the first thing I did was just really outline the show for content and just kind of staying true to most of the narrative. But the second thing was, there's only 4 of us. And we kind of have a rule in my show that whenever we go into the magical land, those characters are puppets. So when Wendy is in her nursery, I play her father at the beginning of it, Mr. Darling, and then, our sons play her younger brothers, and okay, this is just the human world. But when we go into Neverland, those characters are puppets.
Ooh.
Previously, in our first iteration of the show, I played Peter Pan and Captain Hook, but it had its limitations. But I thought, well, let's make it life-size. In Alice in Wonderland, we kind of took that approach of let's make the characters what they literally would be. So in Neverland, same thing. Okay, well, Peter Pan's a boy. Let's make him about 4.5 feet tall. So that's kind of what he is. Captain Hook, well, he's a grown man. All right, he's got to be at least about 6 feet tall for him to be imposing. And with everything, he's about 7 feet tall in the show because of his hair, and he wears a large hat at one scene with a big feather, and I have to wear him. So to do that, I started using harnesses. So Peter Pan, he's worn on a harness. I wear a snare drum harness. It doesn't strap in. You don't have any buckles or seat belts or anything to adjust. It literally has 2 hooks that just go over your shoulders, so I could pick up the harness and just put it on, and then that's it. And the weight is distributed.
Hold on. I've got a joke for you. Why does it take Captain Hook so long to learn the alphabet? Because he spends years at sea. Please, continue.
I try to give the illusion that when Peter Pan is off the ground, he's kind of floating and hovering, but not standing just still, but just kind of going up and down what would almost just kind of look like someone wading in water or him just kind of flying. And it also gave me the ability to extend it, or I also put in a rotating mount. So Peter Pan could go sideways when he's flying, and then I could flip him all the way up down.
What is Peter Pan's least favorite part of a song? The hook? Tell me about your Captain Hook puppet.
Captain Hook, same kind of thing, where I have my hand in his mouth, and I had a rod that came out of the back of his elbow for his real hand. His hook hand was just posed and bent. I wore his body on a snare drum harness, but what was different is I strapped my legs behind his legs. It almost became sort of like a parallelogram type of engineering, where this was Captain Hook's shin and my shin. So if my knee went forward, his knee went forward. If my foot went forward, then his foot went forward. And there was just a hinge and a bar here, hinge and a bar like this. So it could go back and forth. And what I had to do on my leg is I strapped in with shin guards.
Oh, nice.
And Mr. Smee is same thing, mouth here, hand here. When we did it the first time, we actually had my wife perform Mr. Smee hidden behind an object that he would always pop up. But we wanted to do the same thing, but with my son. My son plays Michael, the youngest brother of Wendy. But whenever we would have Captain Hook be on stage in different scenes, he would run off stage, have a quick change, and he would get in the puppet. But Mr. Smee, only exists in puppet form from the waist up. What my son would do is and so imagine, he's got his torso and the hips. My son would put his legs into the pant legs like this, and my son would actually be sitting on a stool. So Mr. Smee's legs are really only just from the knee down and just walking along like this with the puppet above him.
How excited was Wendy to go to Neverland? She was so excited that she nearly Peter Pans. Now, Derek, I don't know if you were aware, but you had a fifth cast member on stage with you at every performance. Me! Don't believe me? Take a closer look. What's the most rewarding thing about being a puppeteer?
It's sort of like illusions. Illusionists, create an illusion that you as the audience buy into, and then you don't know how it happened. When I pick up a puppet, it's like I'm creating an illusion. As you can see, these are just objects. They're tools that I use. But if I'm doing my job correctly, it creates the illusion of life. And what's so great is, Sesame Street's been on over 50 years, 55, 56 years, something like that to be exact. And so we have people who are in their 60s who have grown up seeing a puppet, but most people don't get a chance to see one in life. So when I'm doing a live performance and I can pick it up and then I meet them afterwards and address them or talk to them or make a comment or improvise with them, I love seeing their faces because I see people, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s just kind of go, and they have that goofy reaction because they turn into a child again.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I'd give you a round of applause, but I can't because I'm a ghost and my hands would just dissolve into each other. Derek, thank you for shooting the sheet with me today.
I'm going.
My friends, I must ghost you for now. Until next time, goodbye.